Hello, my name is Rick Gutierrez. I'm pastor of Anthem Church. I'm here with my very good friend, Chris Turner of Neels Creek Baptist Church. We are part of Angier Hope. It's just a partnership of churches in the Angier area working together, provide resources to address a lot of topics that many of us do face and deal with that can cause a lot of angst and chaos and turmoil in our life. And so we believe that God has given us some answers.
Yes.
And much hope.
Yes.
Right? And so we want to talk about hope in the midst of fear. Fear is something that many of us will wrestle with often throughout our lives. What is it? And, what does the Bible say about it? And how can we mitigate against fear? That's really what we want to talk to you about today. And so, Chris, I'll just we'll throw it over to you. Someone's wrestling with fear. What would you begin the conversation? Where would you begin it?
Yeah. So, fear can take so many different forms. It can be things that are happening on the world stage. It can be things that are happening under my own roof. It can be fear related to something that's happening within my own body. So it can come from a lot of different places, a lot of different sources. The first thing I think I would say to start the conversation is that fear really is a liar. It is most of the time fixating on something that is out of our control or that we feel helpless about, and we are just paralyzed by this fear about what's going to happen and the outcome. And that is that's why it robs us of so much hope and so much joy, is because many times it's just kind of locking us in this place that we can't break out of.
So I like the way you said that, right? That fear is a liar.
Yeah.
And it really is, because our emotions lie to us constantly.
Yeah,
so you're a grown man.
Yeah.
So am I. We're mature. We know truth and stuff. Yeah. And you go home and you watch a scary movie, a horror movie. If it's scary enough, listen, Chris, you're going to be up tonight with the lights on.
That's right. That's
and
so true.
And there's nothing under the bed, nothing in the closet hiding.
Yeah. For me, it's getting on that roller coaster, and even though all this stuff is strapping you in, and good and well that my big self, there's no way I'm going to come out of this harness. Yeah. I'm still scared to death that I'm going to fly off of this thing.
That's right. It's so like our hearts, our emotions don't know the difference between fear in the sense of, is it caused by something that's legitimately genuine or something that's fake or false or whatnot. Right. And so our emotions lie to us a lot. And I'm not discounting the reality of certain things bringing about fear. Yeah. So you lose your job or your wife gets cancer. Sure. There are things that are problematic and distressing.
Legitimate fear.
Yeah, like my kid, look at the decision they're making. I fear for that. We understand that. Yeah. When we say that it's irrational or that it's a liar, it's in the sense that there is hope. It's not over. It's not the end of the world, right?
Yeah. So, looking at this from a faith perspective, Rick, I'm drawn to that verse from 2 Timothy 1:7, where it says that God has not given us a spirit of fear, that is not God's desires that we would live in a place of fear, operate out of fear, but He has given us a spirit of power, love, and a sound mind. Yeah. And to me, those are the things that you have to lean on when you're afraid, right? Yes. The power of God, the power that we don't possess, the fact that we may be out of control of this situation that's causing us to be afraid, but it is in God's control. It's not outside of His power. And then the soundness of mind, that sometimes when fear tries to cause me to think of the worst case scenario, the worst possible things, when fear tries to kind of run away with my mind, that I can have the self-control to remind myself, that I have a greater hope than what this fear is trying to lie to me about.
Yeah. Like, really what you're getting to is, if I could just be bold, right, is that on our own, we will live in much, much fear.
That's true.
But if we allow God into our life, right, if we basically say yes to God's presence and His love and His grace in our lives and say, okay, I'm going to now pursue a relationship with Christ. I'm going to believe, I'm going to follow Him. That it's in that living that we then have the opportunity to be free of fear. So really the antidote to fear is faith in God, specifically the name, the person of Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Faith in Him. And then, to quote what is an extremely famous verse in the Bible, is from Psalm 23. Yeah. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, and I always like to pick on those first few words, even though. There's no even though to it. Yeah. We do walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Like, I would say that life on earth, from our first breath to our last breath, life on earth is the valley of the shadow of death. Yeah. And so we walk through the valley of the shadow, but the verse says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Yeah. Why?
Because thou art with me.
Because God He is with me. And so there is something extremely reassuring.
Yes.
It mitigates fear to know that the God who created the universe, that the God who loves me more than I love myself, right? That He is right here, right now with me.
Yes, and that really reminds me of a story that's in several of the Gospels where Jesus sends His disciples out on a boat, and there's a couple of slightly different versions of this, but in the one I'm thinking about, Jesus is asleep. He's with them in the boat, and they encounter this storm, and the disciples are freaking out. They are so afraid, and they go and they wake up Jesus, and they are saying, Master, Lord, don't you care that we are going to die? I mean, they just, this fear has so overtaken them. And Jesus, responds to them. He says, oh, you of little faith. And He's saying, don't you know that I'm here with you? And so I think that shows us that, just because we have God doesn't mean that we won't ever encounter situations and scenarios in life where we may feel fear. But we need to remember that God is with us in those times and that God gives us the power to overcome those fears. Not every storm in life is going to be one that we get to skirt around. Not every storm in life is going to be suddenly calm. Sometimes we have to endure those things in a patient way. But even then, that can build our faith so that we have strength and victory over those fears.
I agree with it. I mean, one thing to consider is it is better to have a fear-inducing situation in life that draws us closer to God and to understand His presence with us in the midst of calamity. Yeah, that's better than an ideal, problem-free, fear-free life.
Fair weather life.
Yeah,
that's right.
It really is better for us.
And the reason is because every one of those situations that we go through helps us then to trust God for the future things that we'll face. That's one of the things when I truly am facing a situation where it's out of my control and I may be tempted to really fret and fear. That's one place that I call on that spirit of power and love and a sound mind. I look back at how God showed up for me in so many other times when I was feeling afraid. And that strengthens my faith. That gives me the hope that I need. Hey, I can face this with God's help.
Yeah, we can mitigate against fear in the present by putting our faith in the past, in what God has done in our life, right?
That's right.
In the present. So Psalm chapter 4, verse 1 says, answer me when I call, O God of my righteousness, you have given me relief. So he's praying in this moment, this fear-inducing moment, right? God, give me relief now, and I can pray to you and have faith that you will do that now because you've done it for me in the past.
That's right.
And so there is the Christian hope, right? Yeah. That we serve and we draw near and we have a relationship with a God who is faithful and trustworthy, and that nothing in this world can overpower Him.
That's right.
He's with us. It's not just with us, like those of us who have placed our faith in Jesus, He's in us. And so there's a verse in 1 John where it says that stronger is He who is in us than he who's in the world, meaning whether, darkness, the devil, problems, whatever it may be, that the all-powerful God of the universe is with us. that really does help extinguish
Yes,
fear.
it does. The final thing, just to close, and I would say, Rick, one of the things that probably is the most fear-inducing thing, across the human race is the fear of dying, the fear of death, and going back to that verse from Psalm 23, the valley of the shadow of death, and the message of the Christian faith, the good news of the gospel is that Jesus Christ came, he died on the cross, he died the death that we deserve, he was buried in the tomb. 3 days later, the power of God, he was raised back to life. He overcame death, hell, the grave. And so that's one of the greatest hopes that we have, is that through Jesus, we no longer have to fear death. We no longer have to fear condemnation or what is to come. That our sins can be forgiven. We can have hope with the Lord Jesus, and we can face that hour that is a decided hour, that death, we're not going to escape it, but that we can have the hope of everlasting life.
There you go. That's good.
Yeah, amen.
I like it. So we hope that was encouraging, at least helpful. If you're someone who's never been in church, let's say, or you're really just now kind of hearing things about God or about Jesus, and we use the word gospel, and you're not even sure what all that means, we would love to meet you and talk with you. We would love to talk with you, and we would invite you into our churches and help explain who God is and how much he loves you and why it is that he provides such power, wisdom, grace in our lives that we don't have to live in fear. We love to kind of point you toward this life with a brighter tomorrow, which is really the very definition of hope, which is found in the person of Jesus Christ, who we like to and love to talk about. So if that's you, please reach out to us. If you're someone who is a follower of Jesus and maybe you just needed to hear some of these reminders, if you found yourself given over to fear, and just know there is hope, pray to the God who loves you, who is faithful. Remember what Jesus went through on the cross and the power of the resurrection to bring reassurance to you. Read the Bible and let God's Spirit speak to your spirits, because that really goes a long way.
Yes, it does.
So we're here for you. We do love you. We hope the best for you, and we would love for you to live a life that's just full of hope. God bless.